will when we broke up. Just to recapitulate a little bit, what is will? Will is that faculty by which we can carry out any deliberate action, deliberate whichever we want. Free will, thus, is that will which, where there is no compulsion, external or internal, that forces us to act in a particular or in a particular manner or in a predetermined way. That is free will. Now, this concept of free will is really has come from Christianity, Christian theology. In our case, in India, everything is governed by karma. And apnaya, the question that is asked is not free will. Is generally put in this: who is the doer from that point of view? But in Christianity, see, a child is born, or rather, take it this way: two children are born. One is born in poverty, in a very difficult situation. The other is born in affluence, in comparative benign situation. Why does this happen? This happens because of the will of the God. Now, if that is so, then what about uh, God also? It is, as per his definition, is one who is all powerful and all knowing. Omniscient we have, all powerful, omnipotent hai, is omniscient also. Now, if he is omniscient, he can see the present, the past, as well as the future. If you can see the future and he knows what is going to happen, then it means it's already predetermined. Then where is the question of free will? So free will in that case, Christianity is that's pure. Not only Christianity, wherever there's a theist religion, wherever there's all Abrahamic religions are theist religions. Wherever there's a God, necessarily he is responsible for everything. Now, nobody likes to say that God is responsible for all the wickedness or all the poverty or all the illness, etc. So you try to defend God. That situation does not arise in our case, in Indian philosophy, in Indian school of thought, because in most cases, God hai nahi. See, in Buddhism, there is no God. In Jainism also, there is no God of this kind. Even in Hinduism, as per the Vedas, जितने भी आपके there 6 schools of thoughts are there, उसमें भी this kind of creative God who is a creator, that is not there. You've got Vedanta mein, you've got consciousness, Brahman, but he is not like the God in Abrahamic religion who creates everything or is responsible for everything. Whether it's Vedanta or it's Nyaya or it is Sankhya, in all these cases, God is merely a witness. If he's witness, he's not really acting anything. So that is the big difference there. But in our case, everything in all these Indian religions, the operative, or rather the main important thing is karma. Everything happens on account of our karma. Now, what does karma do? Karma really does two things. One is that it decides on the situation and the condition that we are born, or a child is born into. And number two, the past tendencies of the previous birth, that is carried over to the new birth. These are two things that the karma is responsible for. But by itself, this is not enough. For karma to be operative, we must have discrimination. That is very important. We should be able to decide what is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, what will be the repercussions of various things, various actions that we take. Only if we have this kind of discrimination, then we can say that we have free will. So this kind of discrimination has been given to us, and it is available with us. And that is why we say we have got a free will. Now, free will, and this is therefore it's a little, not little, quite unlike the Christianity. Now, in fact, moksha, apne jo kaha jata moksha hai, nirvana hai, all these concepts are based upon the concept that we do have free will, that we will be able to overcome all our past tendencies. And in spite of the past tendencies, we will be able to obtain moksha. Now, when a child is born, I may be corrected by the doctors, but to the best of my knowledge, up to about 4 years or so, the child does not carry, at least in vast majority of the cases, he is not burdened with past memories. there are a few cases where past memories, there's something wrong with the nature, and nature has not been able to erase its past memories. But those cases are very rare, and although in the last century, I think about two to 3,000 cases were recorded all over the world, where the children knew their past. But in vast majority of the cases, we are not able to recall our past birth, which is a good thing. Why? Because that is nature's way of telling us that if during these 3 4 years, if the inputs by the mother and by the young mother and young grandmother or grandfather, or the father, the young parents and young grandparents, when these people, if they are able to give it proper parental training, and they are able to introduce proper values into this child, then overcoming the past tendencies becomes easier. Now, otherwise, what happens is, as an adult, invariably, when we are faced with a situation, we try to work out of our past memories, past association. How suppose somebody comes and asks for a loan, a small amount, 100, 200 rupees or something, or it may more or immediately we'll think, oh, what did he do on the last time? Or how was he? He was not a good friend. He had cheated us or something, and we'll work out of those memories. Now, these memories, so this when we do this kind of thing, then we are immediately burdened with compulsions. We have to act out of those memories. When we act out of those memories, we incur karma. Sages, on the other hand, they don't that. They don't do that. They are always in the present. They never see uh, anything of the past. Past may however that individual gentleman may have behaved. Of course, safety is a different thing. If you put your hand in the fire, you won't like to put your hand again in the fire. That kind of situation is different. But generally, when you have to react, or if you react out of past memories, then you incur karma. The sages, on the other hand, they do not incur karma for the simple reason they don't act out of the past. They'll take only the out of the present only. When they are acting out of the present, then they don't incur karma. Not, but of course, as Advait brought out earlier in one of the earlier talks, that in order not to incur karma, it should be a non-action. Non-action के 4 points जो थे, those still apply there. That is about free will. So we do have a free will, and if we exercise correctly, then we will be able to overcome our tendencies and obtain moksha. That is as far as free will is concerned. Now, coming to the story, after Draupadi kept on pleading before everybody that she should be considered a free woman, but nobody gave her much attention. And Duryodhan and Dushasan, they were having a good time, and they were on top of the situation. Duryodhan made a wanting to appear to show that he's a very just and just king and a very large-hearted king. He said that if the Yudhishthir or any of the brothers declare that Yudhishthir was not their lord, then I'll set not only Draupadi, but I'll set all the brothers also free. Then they will no longer be my slave. But they have to confirm that. Yudhishthir, of course, kept quiet, because then after some time, Bhim, when Duryodhan and others, they kept on mocking all of them. Then Bhim confirmed. He said, no, Yudhishthir is our Lord. He is the eldest of us, and he is our Lord. Now, this is a metaphor. What does this mean? That, see, there are these 5 brothers there, and each of these 5 brothers have got, they represent certain traits. In these traits, Yudhishthir represents truth and righteousness. Now, all the other divine traits, they are all governed by truth and righteousness. So it is not that they are equals. In fact, they are governed by them. That is the meaning of that he was saying that they are not the lord of this thing. So Bhim had necessarily to confirm that yes, we are governed by all of them, and in that sense, they are bound. So that is why in the ये जो metaphor में आता है, they've all been bound and made into slaves because they are all governed by truth and this thing. On the other hand, Duryodhan, he is free because he is not governed by truth and righteousness. So he and his brothers, in that sense only, they are all free, whereas Yudhishthir and Yudhishthir and his other brothers, Bhim, they are all bound together. Moving on with the story, uh, Draupadi's plea when she kept on again appealing to all of them that look, I should be set free. I should, I'm a free woman. I should not be here at all. But nobody listened to her. And then uh, Dusashan and others, they kept on mocking her. And Dushasan told her that, look, you are our slave. And from now on, you have to do whatever we tell you. Duryodhan, thoroughly enjoying himself, he bared his left thigh. He removed this dhoti from his thigh and patted it and said, come, you sit here. Meaning, of course, what I meant is different. But he gestured to Draupadi to come and sit on his left thigh, which he had bared. Bhim got very angry and he wanted to get up and 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 immediately settle scores with the Duryodhan. But Yudhishthir calms him. He says, no, just sit down, keep quiet. When all this was going on, Karna, who was not normally, Draupadi, when she went into any male gathering, she would always have a shawl, that second angavas, the second piece of clothing upon her. So Karna, he had noticed that she was she had around in a single piece of clothing. So when all this was going on, Karna spoke up. He said, why all this fuss about this lady? This woman, she is already married to 5 women and is unchaste. Chastity, those days, as per the norms, was a woman could have only 4 husbands at the most. But if she has more than 4 husbands, then it was said that she's an unchaste woman or a prostitute. So he said that, look, this woman uh, has got 4 husbands. She's unchaste anyway. So why all this fuss about her? Then, then he added on his own that she is dressed in a single piece of clothing, a cheel. She doesn't have her upper garment, like all the other people in her profession. Of course, he didn't say that. What he said was, she is dressed in a cheel. So, but had she not been dressed at all, had she not been wearing any clothing at all, had she been nude, then too it would have been perfectly all right. There would be no cause of surprise because she is an unchaste woman. Now, on that, Arjun became very angry and he got up. But immediately, Yudhishthir also told him, no, you please sit down. Now, this again is a metaphor. Yes, the whole Mahabharata is all metaphor. See, when Duryodhan bears his left thigh, now the right thigh is supposed to be the seat of the daughter. The left thigh is supposed to be the seat of the wife. So whatever may have been the connotations or the reason behind Duryodhan doing that, however lewd it may be, yet Yudhishthir merely thought that he was telling that he was inviting that newly acquired slave to become his wife. Bhim, of course, did not take it like this. He felt that this Duryodhan, with this lewd gesture, only was trying to insult that Draupadi and telling her that from now on, she's available for sexual gratification by anyone. And again, as far as Karna is concerned, when Karna said that she's dressed, now we have to listen very carefully to what the exact words were. What Karna said was that what if she's dressed only in a cheel? Had she not been wearing anything at all, then too it would not have come as a surprise because she is uh, she has 5 husbands and is unchaste anyway. Now, this Karn was really an innocent fellow. As you know, he still had it, uh, what you call that kavach of innocence upon him. But his innocence was the innocence of a child, not the innocence of a sage. The difference between innocence of a child and innocence of a sage is a child up to 2.5, 3 years old जैसे है तो उसको पता नहीं, he does not know, the child does not know what are dirty words, what a situation is, उसके repercussions क्या होते हैं. A sage knows all that. After knowing all that, he may keep quiet or he may respond. But a child will sometimes respond without understanding what the situation is, what the repercussions can be, what is it that means. So his innocence was like innocence of a child. He didn't understand the significance. कहाँ बोल रहा है, क्या बोल रहा है, कैसे बोल रहा है. He just had heard Duryodhan telling her this woman with 5 husbands. He had heard this. So that's why he said a woman with 5 husbands is, and he knew, of course, that anybody with more than 4 husbands is an unchaste woman. So he immediately said that we don't have to be very upset about it. A woman with more than 4 husbands is a unchaste woman. This was because of his association with Duryodhan. And when he says that that she is dressed only in a cheer, but had she not been dressed at all, it would not have come as a surprise. Now, this Arjun took it as an insult. He said he's deliberately trying to insult Draupadi, and he wanted to say, and he wanted to take him to task. But Yudhishthir asked Arjun to sit down. He said, no, he's only telling the truth. It's not that he's not telling, he's said anything wrong. So that is how, even though both of them were very angry, so Bhim told Duryodhan that, look, I'll break your thigh for it and kill you. Arjun also, when Yudhishthir told him to sit down, he told Arjun told Karna, one day I will kill you for this statement of yours. Anyway, coming to the story again, when Arjun made the statement, he threatened Karna. Karna turned his attention from Draupadi to Arjun and the Pandavas. And he looked at them, and he found that they were all still having their status symbol, that second clothing, that what they call anga, was strapped on their on the left bare shoulder, and they had their headgear, that pagadi or whatever they used to wear those days. So immediately, and he said, then this Karn told, slaves cannot have any status, and the status symbol which they wear, they should be removed. They should be stripped of them. Now all the 5 brothers, they removed their headgear, and they removed the shawl or whatever angvas which they were having on the shoulder, and placed it on the floor. Draupadi, who would normally also be wearing a second piece of clothing, was today not wearing another clothing. She was only in single piece of clothing, a cheer, by which she had wrapped herself around completely. So when this happened, she became a little concerned because she didn't have the shawl which covered her body and torso. So she, with the single piece of clothing which she was wearing, the sari which she was wearing, she wrapped around herself a little more securely. Vikarna, who was watching all this, again became very, very agitated. Then again he said that, look, we have been doing a great injustice to a lady. First of all, we drag her from by her hair and bring her in this kind of wretched, abusive condition. And now we are all trying to shred her modesty by all the acts that we are doing here. Please, it should be stopped, and we have got no right to do it. Now, this kind of a statement by Vikarna immediately sent ideas into the head of Dushasan, and he looked at Duryodhan, and Duryodhan also. They both got the same idea when he said that they should not be doing this because it is shedding the modesty of a lady. So from that modesty word, immediately when Dushasana and Duryodhan, they both got that idea of, and especially also since Draupadi, she took her piece of that her steed which you were wearing, the sari which you were wearing, she wrapped it a little more tightly around herself. So when this happened after Vikarna made that statement, the Dushasan, he looked at Duryodhan, and when Duryodhan nodded, he went and proceeded to Draupadi and caught hold of her sari in order to strip her. Now here, modesty, this upper garment declared, the upper garment or the shawl declared that a person was of a upper strata. Now this upper strata, a man used to be honored for whatever his accomplishment were. And if he is from the upper strata, he was entitled to wear this second piece of clothing. One just maybe dhoti to thi, apart from dhoti, that shawl or the angavas which was kept on the shoulder. If there's a wife there, then the wife was automatically also permitted to wear the second piece of clothing. Of course, if there's a lady there or a girl there who is honored separately, then she would also be given a shawl in her own right. But even as a wife of a person who has been honored, and so that wife also could wear that angavas or second piece of clothing. But in case of women, modesty was very important because she was the repository of all moral values, the essence of her being. And modesty is not only modesty is not just drawing attention to oneself, it is part of self-effacement. The self-effacement and self-aggrandizement, there are two things. One in which you allow your ego to get the better of you and you start bragging. The other is you start making yourself completely zero. Virtually you despair. So one is good for the spiritual growth, where you become so humble that you almost cease to exist, or at least you don't appear to exist at all. That much humility is there. Modesty is that when you become humble to the core. But here they're shedding her modesty. Now, material wealth, Dushasan, Shakuni, and all others who are there, these people, they get together to debase a human being, and especially in case of a woman, they want to remove all her modesty, all her values. And the first case, if you see, Draupadi was dragged to the court, to that gaming hall, by her hair. So they caught hold of all her values, moral values. In the second case, here, they're trying to remove her modesty. Now, these are the important yeah, and these are the interpretation of these the happening that were taking place. Karna ke saath hai, he was actually innocence, completely innocent, and he had his kavach. In his case, he used to utter a lot of things, but he did not understand the significance of this thing. Like I said, his innocence was that of a child, not that of a sage. Sage would understand everything and then keep quiet. Or if you make a statement, he will take that into consideration, the repercussions and everything, then make a statement. But this fellow, since he was in the company of Duryodhan, whatever talk we would go on between the brother Duryodhan, Shakuni, Ashwatthama, and Karn was also would join in. Karn would pick up here and there something and utter and rattle out something, whatever he has picked up. It was not that he understood really the significance of whatever was happening. Vikarna putting the word straight away that you should not shed a woman's by dragging her, by calling her all names, etc. We are shedding a woman's modesty. this was responsible, or this was the what gave the Dushasan the idea. They was go back, the thoughts convey themselves. So when Vikarna must have said this, that immediately the thought got communicated to Duryodhan as well as Dushasan, and they started moving towards stripping her, disrobing her. Now, when this was when this was happening, then Draupadi once again appealed to all the elders, and he said, "Gems of the court, please save me from this Dushasan and his wicked design." Now, by this time, although he had caught hold of merely sari, the cheer, but it was very evident what was he trying to do, what was he going to do. So she appealed once again last time to uh, all the elders in the court, which is Bhishma Pitama, then Dronacharya, then who are others were there, Kripacharya, the king himself, and then Vidur. They were all there, but they all kept quiet. Nothing. They didn't say a word. When nobody said any word, came to her rescue, then she again looked at her husband, five of them, and said, "Please help me." But they also kept quiet. They hung their head as if nothing can be done. Then she turned to Krishna. She folded her hand, surrendered herself, and said, "Krishna, let thy will prevail." Now, when this happened, then, now, this is important here. When she surrendered, sir, and said, "Krishna, let thy will prevail." Now, human being approaches God when he becomes absolutely helpless. Till then, he may say, "No, God doesn't exist," or whatever. That, of course, not the case was Draupadi. Draupadi used to, Krishna was always a friend. She knew it, and Krishna always came to her rescue whenever she wanted. But in general, all of us, there are four kinds of people who we approach God when we are in dire states or necessities or in great trouble. That's the first kind of devotee. When you start approaching God, I'm in great trouble, I'm in great difficulty financially or physically, or I've got serious illness, or my family has got some problem. You approach because you've got a problem. In the second case, when you find this kind of problem can be solved, then you become a little bold. Then you go and tell God, "Oh God, give me this, God, give me that." Some even make an offer to God. God, if you give me, I'll give you 10%. Like often they go to Tirupati and they pray there that God give me such and such thing. If you do certain thing, I'll give 10% of whatever I earn. Or some such thing is kind of bargain. But God often agrees to that also. TK, as long as you come to me, then this is the second category of devotee. Then there's a third category of devotee. He is fine that not only the there's a power which can fulfill that demand. Then it starts. What kind of power is that? He is the fellow who's seeking answers. So all of us who are here are really now seeking answers. What kind of power is that with whom we are, associated, and on whom we are dependent also? And so that's the third kind of devotee. And there's a fourth kind of devotee. He does not seek any answers. He knows the truth now. He knows that there is a Lord, that Lord is nothing but himself. They dwells in himself, and he himself is God. God exists within him as himself. So he is the one who knows this thing, that knows the truth, and he just keeps quiet. There's nothing to ask. There's nothing to say anything. So these are four kind of devotees that are there. So uh, Draupadi was, although she had appealed to Krishna in that situation when she was when she had no one to turn to, then, but it was, she is not one of those of the first category who turn to God only when you are helpless. She was really the fourth kind of category. She knew everything, and that is why she said, "Let thy will prevail." She then said, "Please save me," or something. He told Krishna, let thy will prevail. Whatever your will is, that is the best and that's the right thing. And the moment she said this, then as will follow, that no an attempt was made. After that, when Dushasan looked at Duryodhan and he got a nod from Duryodhan, Duryodhan said yes, nodded. Then Dushasan started pulling at her cheek and in order to strip her. Now, I think we'll stop here.